So I've been focused on China a lot lately because that's what seems to be the thing everyone is asking questions about and want to know about. And frankly, what's going on the battlefield in Ukraine is kind of minimal. There's a bit of a lull. It's a bit of the same old, somewhat of a stagnation taking place in Bakhmut. But I did want to highlight one of the bigger things to come out in the last 48 hours, and that is Finland is joining NATO. They got the votes in both Hungary and Turkey, so they are joining NATO. Um, I guess them and Sweden have decided that the package deal thing may come later, but it's better for one of them to join than not have either join. And it makes sense because Sweden is now sandwiched between two NATO countries. So, what does Finland bring to the table? Well, first and foremost, one of the biggest things is Finland shares a 1,340 kilometer or about an 830-mile border with Russia. That's a big deal. It has effectively extended the border with NATO, between NATO and Russia, to the point where NATO has to consider it as a strategic threat. And they probably will. And they should, because they have made their own bed as to forcing countries to join NATO out of concerns of their own security, because being a neighbor to Russia is clearly not something that is absolutely safe. So adding Finland has basically strengthened NATO's presence in Northern Europe, the Arctic region, specifically the Baltic Sea, which is extending NATO's operational reach. You might as well just call the Baltic Sea Lake NATO at this point. There's only very limited access through the St. Petersburg area of Russia, as well as Kaliningrad. So from an armed forces perspective, Finnish armed forces consist of approximately 32,000 active military personnel. These are their more technical, more, I guess, always ready personnel, where they're fighter pilots. They're the ones that operate naval fleets, etc. What makes Finland even more powerful is their reserves, though. They have 900,000 reservists, and they train 22,000 new conscripts every year. So they have a massive population of trained personnel that is ready to fight, and they can call on that. Yes, they have 32,000 active military personnel, but 900,000 reservists is nothing to sneeze at. The Finnish army has about 280 main battle tanks, and they're of the Leopard 2A4, 2A6 variant, as well as 400 plus armored personnel carriers. They have 300 towed howitzers, which are artillery pieces, 112 self-propelled artillery pieces, as well as 24 multiple launch rocket systems. The Finnish Air Force consists of 62 F-18 Hornet fighter jets made by the United States, and they're planning on replacing them with F-35s. That deal has actually taken place. They have a fleet of transport and training and utility aircraft. From a Navy perspective, they have 8 missile boats. All of these generally operate within the Baltic Sea. They have 2 mine layers, 6 mine countermeasure vessels, as well as 4 corvettes that are under construction. These corvettes are actually designed to be deployed for year-long deployments in the Baltic Sea as well as the North Atlantic. Now, Finland's defense budget is approximately 5.6 billion. It's been raised up. Now, to be in NATO, you have to, by treaty, spend at least 2% of your GDP on military. Well, Finland before last year in 2021, they spent about 1.7% of their GDP. This year, and then going forward, they will spend about 2.2%, which equates to about $5.6 billion. What really makes Finland an asset is they have a history of military professionalism. They're a great military. They have a lot of experience working alongside NATO forces and actually have participated in missions in Afghanistan, Kosovo, and Bosnia. So there's a lot of integration there. They already integrate with the Western equipment. So it just would be an easy handshake to get them up to speed with NATO. A lot of training events take place with regard to winter training in Finland as a NATO partnership situation before they even actually joined NATO. So a lot of capability there. Very pleased that they're joining. I hope that Sweden is able to join as well. I know that there's a bit of heartburn between Sweden and Hungary pertaining to various comments that were made on the international stage, as well as Sweden and Turkey with regard to issues they have with some of the Kurds that they're housing there. Talked about that in previous videos before, but just wanted to give a quick rundown of what's Finland's capability is and what it brings to the table, it essentially just bolsters a lot of the capability of NATO, as Russia has brought this upon themselves. This isn't NATO expanding. NATO never went to Finland and said, please join. Finland decided it was time to join because Russia has become increasingly belligerent to its neighbors. And that is the reason why that's the reason why all countries joined NATO, was because they wanted the security guarantees. No one has ever been forced into NATO ever. This is not a NATO expansion by conquering. This is NATO essentially allowing countries that really want to join. And after the fall of the Soviet Union, all of those former Soviet bloc nations that joined NATO came running to NATO as a precaution for future Russian aggression. And it seems like it was warranted, because we see an aggressive Russia in places like Ukraine and Moldova and Georgia. So there you go.